Mean absolute deviation. Mean absolute deviation is the average distance between each data value and the mean. Mean absolute deviation, or MAD, is a statistical measure used to quantify the average deviation of a set of data points from their mean. It provides insight into the variability or dispersion within a dataset. Let's find the mean absolute deviation of the following data. Here's our quiz scores: 65, 75, 90, 90, 100. The first step is to find the mean. So we add all the numbers together and divide by the number of numbers. There are 5 scores, so we divide by 5. We get a mean of 84. Step 2, find the absolute deviation. To do this, you need to subtract the mean and each data point. Then take the absolute value of each difference. So, the mean is 84. So how far away is 65 from 84? It's 19 units away. 75 is 9 units away. 90 is 6 units away. So you can see that we want to compare the mean to each individual score by subtracting them and then taking the absolute value. We don't want negative numbers over here. The last step is to find the mean absolute deviation, or MAD. To find this, you find the mean, but using the absolute deviation numbers. So remember, this was the column on the right on the previous slide. These were the distances to all of the points, or all the individual scores. So we're going to find the average of these numbers. You add them all together, divide by the number of numbers, and the MAD is 11.2 points. This means that the average test score is 11.2 points from the mean of 84. The number of goals scored by the players on the boys and girls lacrosse teams per game after each team has played 8 games are displayed below. Compare the mean absolute deviations for the goals scored per game. First, we will find the mean for each team. Do your answers look like the two shown below? So you add up all the girls' scores, divide by 8, do the same for the boys' team, and we see the average for the girls' team is 5. The average for the boys' team is 6. Step 2, find the absolute deviations. Okay, so here are the number of goals in each of the 8 games for the girls and the boys. I've included the mean here, so the mean for the girls' team was 5. We already calculated that. The mean for the boys' team was 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the difference between this number and this number. And we're going to take the absolute value of it. So for example, absolute value of 5 minus 3 is 2. The absolute, well, it's going to be the same because this is also 3, so we're going to skip that one. For 4, absolute value of 5 minus 4 is 1. Absolute value of 5 minus 5 is 0, and these are all zeros. And then the absolute value of 5 minus 10 is, well, remember, 5 minus 10 is negative 5, but this is the absolute value. So that's also 5. Over here, 6 minus 2 is going to give us 4. 6 minus 5 is 1. 6 minus 6 is 0, and the next two are also zeros. We have absolute value of 6 minus 7 is 1, right? So 6 minus 7 is negative 1, but the absolute value makes it positive. We have 6 minus 8, absolute value is 2, and this one's also 8. So there you go, the absolute deviations. Do your tables look like the two shown below? Step 3. Find the mean absolute deviations. Do your answers look like the two shown below? You're going to average all of the absolute deviations to find the mean absolute deviation. Both of them are 1.25. The mean absolute deviation is equal for both the boys and girls lacrosse teams. This means that the data is equally dispersed along the number line in relation to each one's mean, or average. On average, the boy players scored 1 more goal than the girl players. How do you know this? Remember, when comparing averages, look at the means. The girls averaged 5 goals, The boys averaged 6 goals. The number of goals scored by two NHL teams during the first 25 games of the 2017-2018 season are shown in the dot plots below. Compare the mean absolute deviations for the goals scored per game. Since there are so many data points in each set, we can shorten the amount of work required using multiplication. For example, when you begin to find the mean for the New Jersey Devils, you can write the sum like this. But you could also group together the same numbers. So for example, we have 2 zeros, 1 1. We have 8 twos, so 2 times 8 is 16. So these added together is 2 times 8, 16. So see how we can just break it down by the number and then how many of them there are. Multiply it. Step 1. Find the mean for each team. Okay, so for the Devils, the average or mean is 3.2 goals. For the Sabres, it's 2.32 goals. Step 2. Find the absolute deviations. Again, because there are so many data points in each set, we're going to shorten the amount of work required using multiplication. Tables are given on the next slide. A new column was added to the end of the table. It represents the number of data entries for the amount of goals scored. The first 2 rows for the New Jersey Devils are shown in the table below. Go ahead and find the absolute deviations. Do your tables look like the 2 shown below? Step 3. Find the mean absolute deviations. Alright, so we're going to average together all of the absolute deviations to find the mean absolute deviation. For the Devils, it's 1.504. For the Sabres, it's 1.104. 1.504 is greater than 1.104. The mean absolute deviation for the Devils is greater than the mean absolute deviation for the Sabres. This means that there's more variation in the number of goals scored by the Devils. In other words, the number of goals scored by the Devils are more spread out across the number line, whereas the number of goals scored by the Sabres are closer to the mean.